And your is this. How long am I going? You should be able to use it right up here. Is that get set up, and then I'll turn it on.
Steve, what time am I going to?
That'll be your. That's one of yours, right?
Yes.
Here. Do you have sound on yours too?
I don't have
Okay,
any
that's
audio. No, I don't need any sound. I do have one video, I think. Okay, just show. There we go. And then is this the clicker?
Yeah, that one works.
Yeah. All right, what time am I going till, Steve? It's up. Okay. Well, I'm not like a preacher or anything, so when he says take what you need, it won't be that long. All right, I'm Craig Jones, and again, I'm trying not to get too terribly loud. I don't know if I need to turn it down or not, but I'm with DNR. I apologize that I threw the schedule off, but I'm assigned to our criminal unit, so we have had sheriff's office in the upstate come into a house on a search warrant on some stolen property inside or right outside of the house. They found a bunch of severed deer heads. They called us. Turns out the person is individual we're looking at for poaching and night hunting, and our officers are like, what do we need to do to take these deer heads? And we're going to try and see if we can follow up on ours. And I was like, it's kind of interesting. So anyway, that's the stuff that I kind of get to do all the time. But just a little bit briefly about me. I'm from a farm outside of Sumter, if you can't tell by the accent. I never lost that. But I spent several years with Charleston County Sheriff's Office, did SWAT here, did traffic, then went off to law school, ended up doing criminal defense, and then I took over doing the Police Benevolent Association, FOP representation for officers for several years when Andy Savage got out of it for a while. So I've handled till up to 2013 probably every major shooting in the Tri-County area for officers with North Charleston, Charleston City, Charleston County. In 2013, this job with DNR came open, and I said, I'm gonna let Donnie Gamache and all these guys make the big money and be rich, and I'm gonna go on a fixed income at 46. I've got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old daughters. So I love having that time off. It's my dream job as a backwoods country attorney. I get to get out into the field. I am commissioned. They give me a car. They give me all kind of gear. I'm the only employee with 2 offices, one here in Charleston, which is where I live, and then one in Columbia, and then in my car. And I tell the colonel, if we end up in the same city, my system has broken down. So nobody knows where I'm supposed to be. I assist a little bit with prosecuting. Most of our officers prosecute their own stuff, and I assist with that. The most complicated stuff that we have are DUI. So I work, you get a DUI, a lot of times you're going to be talking with me on it, and that's most of what we do. The beautiful thing with my job is I get to liaison with solicitors' offices, the AG's office, and the U.S. Attorney's office, because when they get our stuff, they're like, what in the heck is this? And I get to liaison, but I don't have to do any of the heavy lifting. I work real close with investigations, and I just kind of want to go through, introduce y'all to the DNR. Everybody knows kind of about the writing your tickets aspect of DNR, but we're a broad agency. Our agency has 1,000 employees. Out of those 1,000 employees, only about 370 are under law enforcement. Out of those 370, only about 200 and something are actually active commissioned game wardens. All of our game wardens are just like with SLED. They're state police officers. All of our ones on the coast are cross-sworn federally because South Carolina, I think we've got really one active federal game warden right now. So we do, the trawling cases. We do a lot of the federal fisheries cases. So we do a lot of that stuff like that. We work real close with the Atlanta office for DNR. So all of our coastal guys, and really a good number of our officers are federally cross-sworn, so they can enforce those things. Kind of an intro into what we do. You all know we enforce boating, game, and fish laws. We are also the agency that investigates boating accidents. We do a lot of boating fatalities. Our folks, I work real closely to package those cases for the solicitor's office and make sure everything they need is there. So we'll get called in by other agencies for boating fatalities. Of course, we do a lot of search and rescue, a lot of homeland defense stuff. We're a part and a contributor to Seahawk. So That's a federal task force down here that monitors things as far as ISIS stuff. A lot of homeland defense sort of things is what it's related to. We do a lot of agency assists. We do a lot, our guys work with Mike's guys, regularly. We do a lot working with other agencies. We enjoy that. We're a relatively small agency. Again, I guess we've got about 250 sworn officers in the field. You kind of take out the command staff, and that number goes on down. So we rely a lot on local agencies for assistance on things. We just don't have the ability to do a lot of it. We have a statewide responsive dive team. We have gone all over the country. We've done extensive training. We've got what's called side scan sonar, so we can look 80 feet down in the water and see a body down in there. And I can look and you can see if they're wearing floral shorts. The sonar is that sensitive. It's pretty amazing what it's able to do, but we recover bodies all over the state, any condition, and we'll go. Our divers are certified as cave divers. They can go into structures. They can go into all kind of things. We promote safe boating. We do victim body recovery. Again, oftentimes the dive team, but quite often that's our patrol officers that are going along and when those bodies float up. And I've learned a lot about when they float, what those conditions are, and when they surface. We do a lot of evidence recovery. Our dive team is out. Just now, I get a text every time we're called out looking for a firearm that was tossed somewhere into a body of water. We do a lot of river patrol and protection of property during disasters. And most of y'all know, and some of you were affected by the flooding in 2015, where we had the massive flooding from the rains. Well, that was an interesting. We learned a lot during that. One thing we learned is how much the looters had learned. And what happened during that flooding, and we were able to put this into practice with the last two hurricanes, is when that flooding occurred, what we found was that the people got victimized twice because the looters went out in boats and went up to houses because those people had to evacuate quickly, and they were stealing the jewelry, guns, electronics, and all that stuff and looting the houses. So immediately as we figured that out, we put our guys 24-hour shifts, and we were on constant patrol on every major body of water where there were residences flooded out. I got called into Orangeburg, and I was down there working on the Edisto, and we just would patrol up and down and check houses. We'd sit there in the dark and wait for flashlights to show up in houses, which usually meant the looters were in at that point in time. When Matthew hit, I got sent down to Edisto, and I spent 5 days down there, and we went down there, and we were watching from the Jeremy Creek side to make sure people weren't coming in because all those houses with the docks right there. It'd be easy to pull a boat right up there, get off, and just walk through house after house after house because there was no power, so no alarm systems were working. So we learned a lot with that, and we have now got it down to a science of as soon as that disaster hits, get boats in the water, get people out. We know where the points are, but we can get to houses. We've got the night vision. We just sit on the water and wait for flashlights to come on, or we'll just try to make our presence known as much as we can while it's daylight, but at nighttime we're starting to patrol up and down with night vision to see if we can catch people slipping in there to victimize people a second time. This is just some of what we did during that flooding. I don't know which ones these were. These were animals that we were rescuing. Of course, people had to evacuate quickly during that flooding, and a lot of them left behind their animals. Once we had gone through and gotten people out, we then went back and then began to do animal recovery and to get animals, and we worked with local shelters, animal owners to get them to safety and get them out. And so we did this for day on and day out doing that. This is a boat that had rolled over, and we have all the equipment to be able to float that boat, get it up. This is just a video just showing a little bit, if I can figure out how to make it. Let's see. There it goes. This is a guy and his wife were out in that deck boat right there. He had been drinking all day. So just for fun, well, go in, but just for fun, he thought it'd be funny just to jump out the boat. And he did. She wasn't ready, and that was the result of that activity. Yeah, this thing kind of, I know, I just wanted to go away.
Mike's running away.
It's very, very sensitive. All right, let's see. All right, I don't know what I did. This is a little bit about what we do on land. And we enforce the game and fish regulations. We do investigations, night hunting, boat theft, hunting accidents, and we have a covert team. We have a team of undercover officers that go in. We deal a lot with and a lot of people don't think about, and they're like, why do you have a covert team for game wardens? We do a lot with illegal transportation of hogs being brought in. People think, well, why is that a big deal? And I had no clue, actually. I mean, I know hogs are a problem. I know they're a problem to land. I know that they can be dangerous, but I was like, how big? Well, the interesting thing with these hogs is you'll have a guy from up north somewhere where they just don't have these, and you have a guy down here in South Carolina, they'll go to Georgia or some other part of South Carolina, they'll buy a 400, 500, 600 pound hog, bring it, put it on this property, charge this guy $5,000 to hunt it. That's tax free. Now, the problem is when you get that hog, they put them into a cattle trailer to bring them here. Well, then that hog has the saliva and stuff on its nose. Well, as it brushes, it spreads. They carry a number of diseases. Well, then when you put that cow or a horse into there, that cow or horse brushes up against that rail, and that's how these things are contracted. And the swine flu and those things are fatal to humans on there. The other thing is there's I read an article yesterday, there's concerns now, there's a disease called chronic wasting disease with deer. And basically what it does is it creates a zombie-like state to the deer, and the deer eventually die. But when the deer touch and rub noses, it spreads. And it can decimate whole populations. There are now concerns, and there have not been any cases where it's transferred to a human yet, because it's pretty easy to see when one has this, because the eyes glass over and they become gray, almost like they have cataracts. The deer are not mobile. They just kind of wander around aimlessly. But the CDC yesterday began to discover some mutations in it that they are concerned that it could now jump to humans. And these things are all, the other thing we have is people go up to Ohio and they will get a trophy, 10, 12-point buck, and they'll bring it back down here, and these guys are hunting them in certain high-fence situations to where they're charging $20,000 tax-free for these bucks. Well, the problem is, again, they put them in these trailers. It's the same people doing the hogs, and these deer contract this chronic wasting disease. They then bring it down here, and it spreads into populations. We actually had DHEC. We didn't do it, but they had a number of cattle that had gotten it from being transported in a trailer with hogs, and they had to kill a herd of cattle. I think there are 27 cattle that had contracted swine flu in there. So we have a covert team that works on that stuff. One of the big cases we had was what's called the bear baying case that was in the upstate. We were one of the only states in the U.S. that allowed what's called bear baying. Basically what you do is that allows you, if you hunt bear with dogs, we allow people to bring their dogs in and actually chase a live bear in an enclosure. What these guys had done is they had gotten the bear legally years before under a permit, under a loophole in the law. And they had some of the bear they had defanged, other ones they had declawed, and people, because we were the only state that allowed this, people were coming from all over the country to do this bear baying and practice on the bears that were here. A lot of these people, it turns out, were sovereign citizens, and we've gotten a lot of folks on there. There was a lot of drugs that were tied in with some of the folks. Some of them were legitimate folks. We had a couple of lawyers that came in, ended up going undercover as a 3-year operation. There were a number of things that we got into it, and it was kind of funny. These guys would go up into the mountains of South Carolina. We had one where they shot, South Carolina, you cannot shoot a mother bear with cubs. And every state's like that. It's the same thing. You cannot shoot a sow with cubs. Well, they shot the mother bear up in the tree with 2 cubs down, and she hung up in the tree. They were laughing. What they didn't know is we had embedded a covert agent with them. They cut down the tree. Then one of the cubs came over. One of the guys knifed the cub with his knife on there. And the whole time our guys going, well, let's get a picture. Let's get it. So they're in there getting pictures with our covert guy that ended up being the case on here. They then you cannot carry it out of South Carolina and cross state lines without certain there are certain things only certain ways you can do it. Then it becomes a Lacey Act. It becomes a federal crime. And they had carried it across with our guy, flagged down, got a guy come up into Lake Jocassee, which is in North Carolina, took it out the valley, put it into that boat. Of course, our guys with it the whole time, and ended up being a good case, but it took 3 years to do. I actually, with one of our covert guys, we rappelled down into that gorge and had to mark the tree where the bear was killed and mark the state lines and do all that stuff on there. So anyway, there's a lot of things we do with that. We do the Homeland Defense stuff. We do the port and bridge security. I don't know if some of you are aware, a while back, we had the alert of possibly a dirty bomb on a tanker. And this is, I guess, again, I get these texts at about 11 o'clock at night. It was on, it might have been a weekend. I can't remember. This alert comes across about a possible dirty bomb on a ship coming into the port of Charleston. Well, I'm up there looking at my maps, figuring out where's the wind blowing at all. Do I need to load my family in the car? But we ended up activating our people. We cut off the waterway all the way around there. First time they've ever evacuated the port. They evacuated the port of Charleston out, and turned out to not be anything. They went through it, and it was not found. But those are some of the things that we end up doing. We do protective security detail. I didn't know that until I got here, but we donate 2 officers to the governor, 2 officers to the lieutenant governor. They're on their security detail along with 2 SLED agents, 2 highway patrolmen, 2 from I don't know where all else. So we donate out to there. We do security at the Bike Week in Myrtle Beach. We donate officers to the protest security. We had the one with the flag in Columbia there. We had a couple of the free speech protests, and we donate officers there, which always puts kind of our command staff in a nervous mode, because again, we know what to do in open fields. We know what to do on the water. We know what to do with deer. Crowds are not our strong suit. There aren't a lot of crowds out in the middle of the national forest. There aren't a lot of crowds out on the ocean. We don't carry tasers. So we don't do a lot of crowd control, but we get called in. We're a state agency, and we're happy to contribute however we can. We do a lot of search and rescue. Every single officer from, I guess it's captain and below, every single officer is assigned at least 1 boat. Some officers have 3 boats. We have some officers that do the offshore stuff. They have 36-foot contenders. They will actually have 3 boats. They'll have a 36-foot contender. They'll have some sort of 21-foot center console, and then most of them will have some sort of shallow water boat, John boat, or something like that, flats boat. Our officers in the mid-state will either have some sort of shallow water flats boat. Almost all of them will have a John boat of some sort, or some sort of center console. But every officer has got to be prepared to respond. Again, if they're drinking, if they're off duty, we're not trying to call them out. But there are times we're unique in that every one of our officers, we give them an iPhone. They are to give that iPhone number out to the public. We're not trying to, they don't have to, we're not trying to make people run through dispatch. When that kid gets lost out in a wooded area, our guys know it best. So our folks are the first ones that they're going to call. We want them to call our people directly. I get calls from attorneys all the time. They're going, "Hey, Craig, I just FOIA'd or I ruled 5 your dispatch and nothing came back." And I'm like, "Yeah, it probably didn't." We don't run through dispatch a whole lot. Our officers, people are calling our officers directly on the iPhone, but our officers need to be able to respond. They've got their four-wheelers. They know the area, which is where a lot of times when the sheriff's office calls and they says, "Listen, we've got this 4-year-old who's missing over here." Our guys can get in there. They know the area. They're like, "This would be an attraction to that. I've got this that can get into there, or I got this boat that can get into this area." So we're ready to be able to respond, and every one of our officers live in the area that they work. They have to live in that area so that they can be able to respond. Again, there are certain ones on call, but as needed, you may get pulled out. And there have been times I've been pulled out for larger things. So natural disaster response, snow detail, whenever there's a snow or ice event, our officers will quite often team up with a trooper or a local officer. We've got four-wheel drive, got winches on every vehicle, and we'll be on the side of the road on there, and every officer's on a rotation for an ice event or snow detail. Same thing with hurricane. We have an emergency management plan, so every officer's on there, including myself. And we can get sent to wherever we are needed. Same thing with flooding. And again, the security of residences and property is a big event that we do a lot because we just have the resources to do it. At Asst, we were riding up and down the ocean front and all up and down the creeks and all to look for houses. Again, we've got night vision and FLIR, and we're looking to see if people are going into houses. Again, if we see lights, we'll go up and approach. Many times they were homeowners. We're fine with that. We like knowing that you're there, so if we need to get to you for something. But many homeowners came out and said, I'm not leaving, I'm here, no problem. Here's our number, need us, and cell phone's working, and we can get to you, we're there. We just this year started a canine team, and it's kind of interesting. It's been very successful. Our canines don't attack. They're not drug canines. Most of them for search and rescue. Of course, that, tracking people, it can be used to be able to track suspects or whatever. But our intended purpose is for search and rescue. But all of them are also trained on gunpowder residue so they can detect firearms, and that's where we've been utilized a lot by other agencies. If that guy tosses that gun, we now have 5 canines spread out around the state, and they're trained in gunpowder residue. So they throw that gun. We've been very successful in being able to recover it. They also are trained in game detection, so when we get out there, those people that are hunting ducks and they're hiding ducks that are over the limit, or they're hiding dove, or whatever it may be, or pheasant, Donnie, I'll be watching you tomorrow. But they can go in and detect that stuff. So it's kind of been interesting to do. It's been interesting to learn, and it's been very successful on there. Again, other agency assists, we work regularly with manhunts and that sort of stuff because, again, if it's in town or urban environment, unless we're right there to assist. But most of the time, these folks are running out to a wooded area, somewhere like that, which our officers know. Again, they've got the ATV and those things handy. Other agencies haven't. The issue is, do they have them readily accessible? I mean, we've got ours, have to keep them readily accessible. And education is a big part of what we do. We do a lot of youth hunts. It's been really neat, that program. We get match dollars from the National Shooting Foundation, Ducks Unlimited, numerous other organizations to introduce kids into hunting. Skeet shooting has become huge. So we do a lot. We have officers that do training on there, and we do a lot of skeet shooting. We have opened up ranges all over the state. We partnered with the Wild Turkey Federation up in Asst to create a world-class trap shooting and skeet shooting range up there that they use for a lot of collegiate events. We have a Wounded Warrior Hunt program where property owners donate, prime pieces of land to be used for these hunts. We've got the ability to go in and make those stands where you can get somebody who has whatever traumatic injury, we can get them up into that stand. And we've been able to purchase and do these things and give some of these folks that grew up hunting but now are not able to do it because of catastrophic injury. We've been able to get this stuff to be able to allow them to do that, and we've been able to partner with landowners and prime pieces of property to where they can do that stuff. We do a lot of fishing rodeos, and Walmart has been a great partner with us, as had Cabela's and a number of other. And we do these fishing rodeos. We did one here at our Charlestown Landing, and we have 2 large gators in Charlestown Landing. We had to relocate, which is interesting because when you're trying to relocate them, you're hoping they're where they're supposed to be so you can get them, because the next day was the fishing rodeo. So we did catch them, relocate them. Gators will travel back, though, to their home body of water relatively quickly, so we're holding our breath, hoping they didn't go back the next day when all the kids were there, and they did not. They cooperated. But every child gets a fishing rod. Every child gets, the corks, the hooks, and all the stuff that they need. Our officers are there along with numerous volunteers to teach the children how to do it. And that's been a really neat program to do. Hunter education program. We have a whole hunter education division that goes into and works with the archery program and those sort of things where we teach you. We have a huge archery program. And that's been just, again, another neat program. And I don't remember how many students, but it's several thousand students that participate, and then they have an annual competition at the end of the year. And it's just been an amazing program. And a lot of places, again, Walmart, Bass Pro, and some of these have partnered with us to do these things and make them happen. Some of the things we do, again, this is at Bike Week in Myrtle Beach. We put our officers, they're out there, and they're doing patrol, and we usually, again, team them up with a local officer and oftentimes a sled. And those, this was at Asst where I worked, and this was the front reach for those of you who were, we cut our way in there after Matthew hit. We cut our way in there the day after and ended up running into a guard unit. Got them. They came in and helped cut our way in, and we began patrolling. And it was my in-laws have a house on Asst. I've grown up going there. It was surreal to have nobody there at all, and to be able to ride around there and there was nobody there. While we were doing patrol, people heard I was down there, so they were calling, going, "Hey, can you check and see if my house is there?" So I spent half the day just riding around saying, "Looks good from the outside. I can't get to it yet or anything." But this is, the sand that was on the Front Beach Road, the main road, Palmetto Boulevard right there, just unbelievable. Rally and protest security. This was at the State House. I'm not sure which one this is for, but again, we send the officers up there and they jump right into the mix with the local and sled and highway patrol, and we'll do whatever we need to do. Nighttime operations. Our officers, we have FLIR, we have thermal imaging devices. A lot of what we do is night hunting stuff. Night hunting is, people think we're into the night hunting because of the deer population. Realistically, the deer population from night hunting is probably minimally impacted. Now, I would say if you own property and you like to hunt, the big deer population is probably significantly impacted. As I've done these cases and I've gone through, and recently we had a guy in Kershaw that we caught, and his scope, we pulled it off. One of our officers noticed it had the video recording feature in it. So we ended up getting a search warrant, pulled that off of there. Luckily, this person was very nice and had been taking his night hunt since January, and this was probably sometime in September when we caught him. But what you did see was how many quality 8 and 10-point bucks he would shoot out of a field. And there might be 30 deer out there, but he was taking out the quality ones. So I am, talking with our biologists, I'm convinced that, a lot of your quality deer, this is where it is affected. But the other bigger part with night hunting is typically they're using a centerfire rifle. A .223 is a favorite of it because it's got a relatively low report. But they're shooting flat, and usually when we catch them, a lot of times they'll talk to us, and they'll usually say, "I've been doing it for years, and I've probably fired 100 rounds flat with a centerfire rifle." A lot of times they don't live in the area. They come to an area that they don't live in so that nobody recognizes their vehicle or anything. And they have no idea where their houses back there or where there's a road back over there. It's just, this was a good field where deer were, and we find out that they've been doing it for a while, because night hunting is just a matter of right place, right time. Because, if we get the call of, "Hey, I hear shots going off," by the time an officer, if they're home or whatever, they're on call, get dressed, get geared up, get in their car, and get over there, they're gone. So it's just a lot of times just a matter of the right time, right place. Officer just happened to be coming through from somewhere and got home late, and they just happened to be in the area and make the stop. Right now we have 3 fixed wing airplanes, so we can get out. We've got FLIR on those. We assist other agencies. We've got the mapping software. We've got our K9 team, and this is our K9 team. And again, they're scattered all over the state. This is part of our one of our outreach. Every officer in the state has to be part of an outreach program. They have to do some sort of education, and they've got to report that at the end of the year. So every officer, whether they're going into schools to speak, whether they're doing fishing rodeos or whatever they're doing, they've got to do some sort of outreach on there. This is Kendall Chavez. Kendall was down here. She's now in upstate. And I don't know what, this is probably a fishing rodeo. This is one of our fishing rodeos. And what you'll see, kids are from all over. Every single kid is given a rod and all the stuff they need to be able to fish. A couple more pictures of that rodeo. And again, a lot of these kids have never fished like this before. I mean, it's just getting to places and ponds and all. As far as the specifics, we're a very pro-Second Amendment agency. I mean, a lot of what we run up on, guns are inherently part of the activity. So our officers are probably, maybe in some cases, sort of too even keel about it in some cases, but we're used to guns being involved there. So that's just the nature. We're unique, and we're a police agency policing a recreational activity. So unlike Mike and his folks, where a lot of times they're dealing in crime deterrence. We're policing a recreational activity where somebody's engaging in a legal, fun activity. So we've got to, when we hire our officers, they've got to be able to interact with people. They've got to have good personal skills. We get that application in, and they say, I've been SWAT, I've kicked in this many doors, all this stuff. That doesn't always translate well with us. You've got to be able to get out in the field, interact with people, do it in a way that doesn't tick everybody off and get us a bunch of phone calls. So, we've got to develop those interpersonal skills, but at the same time, you've got to keep up also, that same tactical awareness, and that's a fine line to walk. We had one of our officers several years ago pull up to a campground. They regularly ride through just to check those. He got out of his vehicle, shut the door, was just going to walk through the campground and check it like we do regularly, turned around and took a shotgun blast to the chest. And it turned out it was oftentimes a lot of felons will go and they'll hide in these campgrounds because, again, there's limited check on them there. And this guy was wanted. He went to this campground in the upstate and thought our officer was there for him, did not know that they just do a routine check, and the officer never even had a chance. The officer lived. Luckily, they had birdshot in the shotgun, and the officer lived, but it was just it was just an interesting part. But again, hunting's in our Constitution. We protect that right, and we hold it up. Our most serious statute is use of firearms or archer tactics in a criminally negligent manner. And it deals with, where there's been property damage, where there's been injury, and then where there has been great bodily injury and then death. And this is our most serious. This is our first two levels are high misdemeanors, I believe, and our great bodily injury and death are felonies. And most of these come about when somebody does not identify their target. I mean, most of these, I would say, turkey and deer hunting. I saw something moving in the bushes, and I thought it was a deer. And that's I would say that most of the time these can be avoided. It's a deal to where they just impatient and they just wanted to, they were certain it was a deer or something. And we have had some where when we got into looking, they might have thought because of the shape. There was one in the upstate where a guy was crawling on the ground. They had seen a boar, and the way it was behind the bushes. So we're not, but most of these are ones where they say, I never really saw the deer. I saw some sticks that looked like an antler. I thought that was where the body was, and they just fired. And we get it a lot with turkey hunting, where another turkey hunter's calling. They never identify the bird. They shoot at the sound. And that's probably what we get most of, most of them are turkey hunting. Again, I'm not going to go through all the things on here with that. We have hunting from a roadway. Again, the intent of it is trying to get people to not shoot across the roadway and those sort of things on there. We've got the Renegade Hunter Act, which is any of you that hunt know the flaws and all in there, where you'll have somebody that has a small tract of land. They let their deer dogs go next to your big tract of land and let them run across, sweeping the deer off of there, and then they'll go to the other side. And unfortunately, it's a very difficult statute as written to be able to effectively protect their land. And we run into it all the time. We've got some night hunting statutes, and I won't go into all this on here. It's in the materials on here. We changed some things night hunting this year. So some of the things we've done have been made where you can register your property, and it's to encourage hunting. We don't care when you're hunting, coyote, hogs, or armadillo. We want them gone. And we'll never get them gone, but we did make it a little bit easier to be able to do that with less restrictions on there. What that did for us was it made it a little more difficult to prosecute deer hunting cases, night hunting with deer. But that's a trade-off, but the problems with hogs and coyotes have become so problematic. That's kind of where we've gone. That's pretty much what I have. And if you have any question or anything, I have some cards back there. Anytime I can help, I have attorneys call all the time and say, hey, Craig, tell me what's going on with this, or what does this crazy law mean? Our stuff is, it's just not something you deal with every day. So I am here and available anytime.
Thank you. Let's take a 5-minute break if you can. We will finish at 5:15, so don't worry about it.
We will.
Yeah. We always do.
I thought you said I had 2 hours.
Well,
30 minutes.